The night everything changed, Jackson Hayes stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Fairmont Hotel ballroom. Watching the San Francisco fog roll across the bay, his reflection stared back at him, perfectly tailored charcoal suit, dark hair styled with precision, green eyes that had been described by business magazines as both piercing and distant. At 38, he had built a technology empire that had changed how people connected online. Yet standing here surrounded by 500 guests at his own charity gala, he had never felt more disconnected. The event was going perfectly. His assistant had ensured every detail aligned with his vision. The silent auction was raising record amounts for youth education programs. Important investors mingled with tech innovators and philanthropists. Everything was exactly as Jackson had planned it. So why did he feel this persistent emptiness? Jackson Hayes, as I live and breathe. The voice hit Jackson like a wave from the past. He turned to find Tyler Reed walking toward him with that same easy smile that had gotten them both into and out of trouble throughout their childhood in Sacramento. Tyler looked good, his sandy blonde hair slightly longer than Jackson remembered. Wearing a navy suit that somehow looked relaxed, despite the formal setting. He had the kind of presence that made people lean in when he spoke, the natural charm Jackson had always envied. Tyler. Jackson felt a genuine smile cross his face for the first time that evening. I heard you were in town? Should have known you would show up here? Is a chance to support your latest project? Never. Tyler pulled him into a brief hug. The kind men do when they're truly glad to see each other, but trying not to show too much emotion. Besides, I needed to see if success has made you completely boring yet. Completely. Jackson found himself relaxing in a way he rarely did at these events. I schedule my boringness weeks in advance now. Tyler laughed, and Jackson remembered why they had been inseparable as kids. Tyler had been the one who could always make him laugh, who could pull him out of his serious nature and remind him that life was meant to be enjoyed, not just optimized and controlled. There's someone I want you to meet, Tyler said, glancing back toward the crowd. Actually, someone I've been dying to introduce you to for months, meeting Brooke. The woman walking toward them made Jackson forget his carefully practiced networking smile. She wore a dress the color of deep emerald that somehow made her hazel eyes look more gold than brown. Her auburn hair fell in natural waves past her shoulders, and she moved through the crowd with a grace that seemed effortless. She was beautiful, but it was something beyond beauty that caught his attention. The way she smiled at people as she passed them, the genuine warmth in her expression, the way she lit up when she spotted Tyler. Jackson, this is Brooke Sullivan, Tyler said, his voice carrying a note of pride. The woman who somehow agreed to date me despite knowing all my flaws. Not all of them, Brooke said, her voice rich with humor. She extended her hand to Jackson. It's wonderful to finally meet you. Tyler talks about you constantly. His brilliant best friend who changed the world before 30. Jackson shook her hand, noting the firm grip and the way her eyes met his directly. Tyler has a tendency to exaggerate. I just wrote some code that people found useful, some code that revolutionized social connectivity and made you a billionaire before you could legally rent a car. I'd say that's more than useful. There was no judgment in her tone, no calculation, just genuine acknowledgement mixed with gentle teasing. Jackson found himself intrigued. What do you do, Brooke? He asked, then immediately felt foolish for such a standard question. I design events, she said simply. Weddings, corporate gatherings, product launches. Basically, I create moments people remember. She's being modest, Tyler interjected, sliding his arm around her waist. Brooke designed the entire launch event for Meridian Tech last month. 3,000 people, interactive displays, perfect down to the last detail. She's an artist. Brooke's cheeks flushed slightly at the praise. I just like making people happy, creating spaces where they feel something real. Jackson understood immediately what she meant. The ballroom around them was beautiful and expensive, but it felt like a stage set. Impressive, but not memorable. He wondered what this room would look like if Brooke Sullivan had designed it. You should hire her, Tyler said suddenly. For your next big event? She's exactly the kind of creative vision you need. Tyler, Brooke said quietly, a warning note in her voice. Don't. What? I'm just saying Jackson could use someone who understands that business events don't have to feel like business events. Tyler grinned at Jackson. Remember when we were kids and your mom made you have that birthday party? You tried to turn it into a science fair. I was 11, Jackson protested, but he was smiling. And it was educational. It was painful, Tyler countered. Until I convinced everyone to have a water balloon fight instead. Brooke laughed, and the sound did something strange to Jackson's carefully controlled evening. Made it feel less like an obligation and more like something he wanted to be part of. Dangerous sparks, they talked for 20 minutes, standing in a small circle while the gala continued around them. Tyler dominated much of the conversation with stories from their childhood, but Jackson found himself watching Brooke. The way she listened with complete attention, the way she asked questions that revealed she was actually interested in the answers, the way her hand rested comfortably on Tyler's arm, natural and affectionate. She was Tyler's girlfriend. His best friend's girlfriend. The thought should have been enough to stop the warmth spreading through Jackson's chest. Should have been enough to make him excuse himself and move on to other guests who needed his attention. But when Brooke laughed at something, as Tyler said, and her eyes met Jackson's over Tyler's shoulder, something passed between them. A spark of recognition, of connection, of possibility. Jackson looked away quickly, focusing on Tyler's animated storytelling. This was dangerous territory. Tyler was the closest thing to family Jackson had. They had grown up together in Sacramento, both of them outsiders for different reasons. Tyler with his charm but no money. Jackson with his intelligence but no social skills. They had balanced each other, protected each other, built a friendship that had survived Jackson's move to Silicon Valley and his rapid rise to wealth and fame. I need to make the rounds, Jackson said, interrupting Tyler mid-story. His voice came out rougher than intended. Donors to thank. You know how it is, of course. Tyler clapped him on the shoulder. We're heading to dinner after this if you want to join? Like old times? Jackson glanced at Brooke, found her watching him with an expression he could not quite read. I have meetings early tomorrow, but thank you. Excused himself and moved through the crowd, shaking hands and making small talk with the practiced ease of someone who had attended 1,000 similar events. But his mind kept returning to the woman in the emerald dress, to the way she had made 20 minutes feel like no time at all, to the dangerous warmth that had nothing to do with the champagne he had not even been drinking, the complication an hour later. Jackson stood in the same spot by the windows, having completed his social obligations. The gala was winding down. Guests were beginning to leave. He should feel satisfied. The event had raised over $2 million for youth education. His foundation director was thrilled. Important connections had been made. Instead, he felt restless in a way he had not experienced in years. You look like you're trying to solve a complex equation in your head. Jackson turned to find Brooke standing beside him, Tyler nowhere in sight. She had grabbed her coat, a simple black wrap that somehow looked elegant on her. Just thinking about quarterly projections, Jackson lied smoothly. Liar, Brooke smiled. Tyler does the same thing when he's working through something he doesn't want to talk about. Gets this intense look and pretends he's thinking about work. Where's Tyler? Jackson asked, trying to sound casual. Taking a call from his boss. Some crisis with a client presentation. She moved to stand beside him at the window, looking out at the city lights. He'll be a while. His company doesn't believe in boundaries between work and personal time. They stood in silence for a moment. Jackson was acutely aware of her presence beside him. The faint scent of jasmine, the way she breathed. The fact that they were essentially alone in a ballroom full of people who no longer mattered. This is a beautiful event, Brooke said finally, but it feels a little cold. Like everyone's performing rather than connecting. Jackson glanced at her. You see that too? It's what I do. I study how people interact with spaces. She turned to face him. I could help you change that. If you're interested. Tyler was serious. About hiring you? Jackson knew he should say no. Should create distance. Should not invite this woman further into his life. He's always trying to help my career. Brooke's expression softened with affection for Tyler. But yes, I'm serious. You have resources and vision. I have creativity and understanding of human connection. We could create something memorable together. The way she said it, innocent and professional, made Jackson's pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with business. "Let me think about it," he said carefully. "Send me your portfolio. We can discuss possibilities, really." Brooke's face lit up with genuine excitement. That would be incredible. Tyler appeared then, sliding his phone into his pocket and looking apologetic. "Sorry about that. Work never stops." "Jackson was just saying he might have some projects for me," Brooke said, taking Tyler's hand naturally. Tyler looked between them, pleased. "That's perfect. You two working together? My best friend and my girlfriend creating something amazing." Jackson forced a smile. "We'll see. Just preliminary conversations." They said their goodbyes. Jackson watched them leave together, Tyler's arm around Brooke's shoulders, her head tilted toward his as they talked. They looked right together, happy, comfortable. Jackson turned back to the window, his reflection staring back at him in the dark glass. What was he thinking? Brooke was Tyler's girlfriend. Tyler, who had been there for him when his father died, who had celebrated every one of Jackson's successes like they were his own, who trusted him completely. His phone buzzed with an email. Brooke's portfolio, sent with a note. "Looking forward to working together. Thank you for the opportunity." Jackson stared at the message, knowing he should delete it, knowing he should create boundaries before this became complicated. Instead, he opened the portfolio and began looking through her work. Each event she had designed told a story, created emotion, built connection. She was talented in a way that went beyond technical skill. She understood people in a way Jackson never had. 2 hours later, sitting in his penthouse office overlooking the bay, Jackson admitted the truth he had been avoiding all night. He was attracted to Brooke Sullivan. Deeply attracted, and she was absolutely off limits. The smart thing would be to maintain distance, to not hire her, to see Tyler when Brooke was not around, to protect his friendship and avoid the complication. But Jackson had not built an empire by playing it safe. He had taken risks. Calculated risks, but risks nonetheless. This felt different, though. This was not business. This was personal. This was about Tyler's happiness and trust. Jackson closed his laptop and stared out at the city lights, knowing he was standing at a crossroads. One path led to safety and preservation of what mattered most, his friendship with Tyler. The other led into unknown territory. Toward a woman who had made him feel something real for the first time in years, he should choose the safe path. He knew that. But as he sat alone in his expensive office, in his empty penthouse, Jackson wondered if playing it safe had left him with a successful life but a hollow heart. The question was, what was he willing to risk to change that? Working together 3 weeks after the gala, Jackson found himself in a conference room with Brooke Sullivan, surrounded by mood boards and fabric samples. Tyler had insisted on connecting them for a project. Jackson's annual tech summit needed a complete redesign, and Brooke was the perfect person for the job. "I don't want another corporate event," Jackson said, leaning back in his chair. "I want something that actually means something." Brooke nodded, making notes on her tablet. She wore simple jeans and a cream sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Somehow she made the casual look seem intentional, effortless. "What matters to you?" Not the company line. What actually matters to Jackson Hayes? The question caught him off guard. People rarely asked him personal questions anymore. They asked about market strategies and investment opportunities and product launches. But what mattered to him as a person? He had stopped thinking about that years ago. Connection, he heard himself say. Real connection. "I built a platform that was supposed to bring people together, but most tech events feel like everyone's performing, collecting business cards instead of actually talking to each other." Brooke's eyes lit up. "Yes, exactly. So we create spaces that force genuine interaction. No stages, no podiums. Intimate settings where people have to actually engage." For the next 2 hours, they talked through possibilities. Brooke had ideas that challenged everything Jackson thought he knew about corporate events. Interactive installations, small group discussions, spaces designed for vulnerability instead of networking. "This is going to be expensive," Jackson warned. "You're a billionaire," Brooke countered with a smile. And you just said you wanted something meaningful. Meaningful costs money. Jackson found himself smiling back. Fair point. Late-night planning the project consumed them both. What started as weekly meetings became twice-weekly sessions, then 3 times a week. Brooke would arrive at Jackson's office with coffee and new ideas, spreading out materials across his conference table while he worked through the logistics of making her vision reality. Tyler was thrilled. "You two are like creative partners," he said over dinner one night at a trendy downtown restaurant. Jackson brings the resources and structure. Brooke brings the heart and creativity. It's perfect. Jackson watched Brooke across the table, the way candlelight caught in her auburn hair, the way she laughed at Tyler's jokes. She looked happy. They looked happy together. "We work well together," Brooke agreed, her eyes meeting Jackson's briefly before looking away. That night, after Tyler dropped Brooke at her apartment and headed home to his place across town, Jackson sat in his car and admitted the truth he had been avoiding. This was not just about professional collaboration. Every moment he spent with Brooke made him want more moments. Every conversation left him thinking about the next one. Every time she smiled at him, something in his chest tightened in a way that had nothing to do with business. He was falling for his best friend's girlfriend. The shift had happened on a Thursday night in late October. They were working late at Jackson's penthouse office, finalizing details for the summit. Tyler was supposed to join them, but had texted that he was stuck in a client meeting that was running long. "He works too much," Brooke said, reading the message with a slight frown. "His company expects him to be available 24 hours a day." "That's marketing agencies," Jackson said, trying to focus on the presentation deck in front of him, rather than the way Brooke's sweater had slipped off one shoulder. "Constant crisis management." "You work a lot too," Brooke observed. "But you seem to have better boundaries." Different dynamic. Jackson stood, needing to move. The office suddenly felt too small with just the two of them. "Want something to drink?" "I have wine, beer, water that costs more than it should." Brooke laughed. "Expensive water sounds very you." "Sure." He poured them both glasses of sparkling water from Italy, handed her one. Their fingers brushed. The contact lasted maybe a second, but Jackson felt it everywhere. "Can I ask you something?" Brooke said suddenly. "Why aren't you with anyone?" "Tyler says you never date." Jackson moved to the windows, looking out at the city lights below. "I dated. Years ago. It didn't work out. Why not?" She wanted someone present. Someone who could turn off work and just be in the moment. He took a drink. "I couldn't do that. Or wouldn't. I'm not sure which is worse." Brooke was quiet for a moment. When he glanced back, she was standing closer than before. Not touching, but close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. "Maybe you just hadn't met someone worth being present for," she said softly, the air between them changed, thickened. Jackson knew he should step back, should change the subject, should maintain the professional distance they had been carefully preserving. "Brooke," he said, his voice rougher than intended. "I know." She looked down at her glass. "I know what this is." "What's happening?" "Nothing's happening." The lie felt hollow even as he said it. "Jackson." She looked up at him. "I'm with Tyler. I care about Tyler. He's good and kind, and he makes me laugh. But—" Jackson heard himself ask, even though he should not push this. "But when I'm with you, I forget to breathe sometimes." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "When we're working together, I lose track of time. When you look at me like you're looking at me right now, I feel something I shouldn't feel." Jackson's heart was pounding. "We can't do this. I know." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "Tyler is your best friend. He trusts us both completely." "This is wrong. Completely wrong." Jackson set down his glass before he dropped it. "You should go." "I should go," Brooke agreed. But neither of them moved. They stood there in Jackson's office. The city lights twinkling below, the silence heavy with everything they were not saying. Finally, Brooke stepped back, breaking whatever spell had held them frozen. "I'll email you the final vendor list," she said, her voice professionally neutral again. "We can review it at next week's meeting." With Tyler present, Jackson added. Yes, with Tyler present. Brooke grabbed her bag, moving toward the door. She paused there, hand on the handle. Jackson, I do care about him. I don't want to hurt him. Neither do I. Jackson stayed by the windows, not trusting himself to move closer. He's the best person I know. So are you, Brooke said quietly. Then she left. The growing distance after that night, they were careful. Meetings were kept shorter, more formal. Tyler attended most of them, his presence a constant reminder of what was at stake. Jackson threw himself into work, accepting speaking engagements he normally declined, scheduling back-to-back meetings that left no time for thinking. But late at night, alone in his penthouse, he thought about Brooke. The way she listened with complete attention. The way her ideas challenged him to think differently. The way she made him want to be present. To turn off his phone and just exist in whatever moment they were sharing. He thought about Tyler, too. About their childhood friendship. About how Tyler had been there when Jackson's father died of a heart attack during Jackson's freshman year of college. How Tyler had driven 6 hours to be at the funeral. Had stayed for a week helping Jackson's mother with arrangements. Had never once made Jackson feel like a burden. Tyler deserved better than betrayal. Better than his girlfriend and best friend developing feelings neither of them wanted, but neither could completely deny. The confession Tyler showed up at Jackson's office on a rainy November afternoon. Unannounced, Jackson was on a conference call with investors, but something in Tyler's expression made him end it early. What's wrong? Jackson asked, gesturing for Tyler to sit. Tyler paced instead, running his hands through his sandy blonde hair. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Jackson's stomach dropped. Okay? Do you have feelings for Brooke? The question hung in the air between them. Jackson could lie. Should lie. Protect Tyler from the truth. But they had never lied to each other. That was the foundation of their friendship. Yes, Jackson said quietly. I do. Tyler stopped pacing. For a long moment, he just stood there, his back to Jackson. When he finally turned, his expression was complicated. Pain, understanding, resignation. Does she have feelings for you? Tyler asked. I don't know, maybe. Jackson stood, needing to face this head-on. Tyler, nothing happened. Nothing physical. We've been completely professional, I know. Tyler sat heavily in one of the office chairs. That's what makes this worse somehow. If you two had just hooked up, I could be angry. But this is different. This is real. I'm sorry. Jackson moved to sit across from him. I never meant for this to happen. I tried to ignore it, tried to keep distance. I know you did. Tyler looked up at him. I've watched you both trying so hard to pretend there's nothing between you. Brooke gets this look on her face when someone mentions your name. You check your phone constantly when we're together, hoping it's her. It's been killing me watching you both fight something that might actually be real. Jackson felt like he had been punched. Tyler, you're my best friend. You've been my brother since we were kids. I would never intentionally hurt you, I know that too. Tyler's smile was sad. But Jackson, you can't help who you fall in love with. And I think maybe you're in love with her. The words settled over Jackson like truth. He was in love with Brooke Sullivan, completely, impossibly, destructively in love with his best friend's girlfriend. What do I do? Jackson asked, feeling more lost than he had since his father died. Tyler was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was steady but tired. You tell her the truth. And I tell her the truth. And we let her choose. Tyler, no. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Tyler stood. Because here's the thing, Jackson. I care about Brooke a lot. But if I'm being honest with myself, I think I care about her because she's amazing. Not because she's the right person for me specifically. Don't do that, Jackson said quietly. Don't diminish what you have together because of me. I'm not. Tyler moved to the window, looking out at the rain. I'm being honest for the first time in months. Brooke and I were good together. We have fun. We make sense on paper. But there's something missing. Some spark. And I think maybe that spark is reserved for someone else. Jackson felt his throat tighten. You're too good for this world. No, I'm just tired of pretending. Tyler turned back to face him. I'm tired of watching the woman I'm with look at my best friend the way she looks at you. I'm tired of knowing that if she had to choose right now, I'm not sure I'd win. And I'm tired of feeling like I'm in the way of something that could be extraordinary. The weekend Tyler suggested they all go away together. A weekend at a beach house he had rented in Monterey. One last weekend as friends, he said, before everything changes. Jackson wanted to say no. The idea of spending a weekend in close quarters with Brooke while Tyler orchestrated their emotional reckoning felt like torture. But Tyler insisted. Jackson owed him this much at least. They drove down Friday afternoon in Tyler's car, making small talk about work and the upcoming holidays. Brooke sat in the passenger seat, occasionally glancing back at Jackson with an expression. Could not read, worry, fear, hope. Maybe all three. The house was beautiful, perched on cliffs overlooking the Pacific. Modern and open with floor-to-ceiling windows and a deck that wrapped around the entire structure, the sound of waves was constant, soothing. This is incredible, Brooke said, exploring the space with genuine delight. Tyler, how did you find this place? Client recommended it. Tyler set down their bags. Figured we could all use some time away from the city. Clear our heads. That evening, they cooked dinner together. Or Tyler cooked while Jackson and Brooke helped. Moving around the kitchen in a dance that felt both natural and charged with tension, they ate on the deck, watching the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky orange and pink and purple. Remember when we were kids and we talked about living by the ocean? Tyler said suddenly. We used to plan this whole fantasy life. Beach house, surfboards. No responsibilities. You wanted to be a pro surfer, Jackson remembered. I wanted to build robots, and now look at us. Tyler raised his wine glass. You're a billionaire. I'm in marketing. Neither of us surf. I could learn to surf, Jackson offered. You'd analyze the physics of wave formation instead of actually riding them, Tyler countered. But he was smiling. They laughed. And for a moment, it felt like old times. Before complications. Before feelings that should not exist. Just three people enjoying each other's company. But as the night wore on and the wine flowed, the tension returned. Brooke grew quieter. Tyler's jokes had an edge to them. Jackson felt like he was waiting for something to break. The morning after Jackson woke early, unable to sleep, he made coffee and went out to the deck, watching the ocean turn from dark blue to silver as dawn approached. The sound of waves was hypnotic, endless. Couldn't sleep either. He turned to find Brooke standing in the doorway, wrapped in an oversized sweatshirt. Her hair was messy from sleep, her face bare of makeup. She looked younger like this. More vulnerable. Too much on my mind, Jackson admitted. Brooke joined him at the railing, both of them staring out at the water. They stood in silence for several minutes, the only sound, the crash of waves against rocks below. Lou Tyler knows, Brooke said finally. About how I feel. Jackson's hands tightened on the railing. He told me. A few days ago. What did you say? The truth. That I have feelings for you. That nothing happened between us. That I never wanted to hurt him. Jackson glanced at her. What did you tell him? The same. Brooke's voice was thick with emotion. I told him I care about him. That he's wonderful. But that I can't stop thinking about you. That every time we're in the same room, I feel like I'm holding my breath. Jackson closed his eyes. Hearing her say it out loud made it real in a way it had not been before. He set this up, Brooke continued. This weekend. He wants us to figure out what happens next. That's the most Tyler thing possible, Jackson said, managing a sad smile. Creating space for people to be honest even when it hurts him. He deserves better than this. A tear slipped down Brooke's cheeks. He deserves someone who's completely certain about him. And I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm not. Jackson turned to face her fully. What do you want, Brooke? Not what's fair or right. What do you actually want? She looked up at him, hazel eyes full of tears and truth. You. I want you. And I hate myself for it because Tyler is good and kind and everything I should want. But my heart keeps pulling toward you anyway. My heart's doing the same thing, Jackson admitted. Since the night we met, since you walked into that gala in that green dress and made me forget every rule I'd built my life around. So what do we do? Before Jackson could answer, Tyler's voice came from behind them. You be honest, both of you. With me and with each other. They turned to find him standing in the doorway, already dressed in jeans and a sweater. His expression was calm, but Jackson could see the pain in his eyes. The conversation they sat in the living room, the three of them forming an awkward triangle. Tyler had made more coffee. Brooke held her mug like a lifeline. Jackson felt like his entire world was balancing on whatever happened in the next hour. I'm going to make this easy, Tyler said. Brooke, I love you. You're brilliant and creative, and you make every room brighter, but I'm not in love with you. Not the way I should be. Not the way you deserve. Brooke's hands trembled. Tyler, let me finish. Tyler's voice was gentle but firm. We're great together. We have fun. We make sense. But when I think about the future, about marriage and kids and growing old with someone, I don't feel that certainty. That absolute knowing that you're the person I can't live without. He looked at Jackson. But when you look at her, you have that certainty. I've seen it. You look at Brooke the way my dad looked at my mom before she died. Like she's the answer to a question you didn't know you were asking. Jackson's throat tightened. Tyler, you're my brother. I can't. You can, Tyler interrupted. Because here's what I realized. If I really loved Brooke the way she deserves to be loved, I would fight for her. I would be jealous and angry and determined to keep her. But instead, I'm sitting here hoping you to figure out how to be together. Because I love both of you, and I want you both to be happy. Even if it means stepping aside. Tears were streaming down Brooke's face now. You're too good. This isn't fair to you. Life isn't fair, Tyler managed to smile. But sometimes we get to choose how we respond to unfair situations. And I'm choosing to give you both permission to explore what's between you without guilt. Without feeling like you betrayed me? I can't accept that, Jackson said, his voice rough. You're releasing us from responsibility for hurting you, but we still hurt you. I still chose to develop feelings for your girlfriend. That's on me. I chose to keep seeing you after I realized what I was feeling, Brooke added. We both made choices that led here. Tyler nodded. Yes, you did. And those choices hurt. I'm not going to pretend they didn't. But I also made choices. I introduced you. I pushed you to work together. I ignored the signs because admitting them would mean confronting the truth. That I was in a relationship that was good but not great. That I was with someone amazing but not right for me. He stood, moving to the window. My whole life, I've watched people settle. My parents settled for a marriage that was functional but joyless. My sister settled for a career she hates because it pays well. I don't want to settle. And I don't want either of you to settle either. Brooke's choice, the silence that followed, was heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, Brooke stood. She walked to Tyler, taking his hands. Tyler Reed, you are one of the best people I've ever known. You're kind and funny, and you see the good in everyone. Any woman would be lucky to have you. She took a shaky breath. But you're right. What we have is good. It's not extraordinary. And we both deserve extraordinary. Tyler squeezed her hands. So do you? And I think maybe Jackson is your extraordinary. Brooke turned to look at Jackson, still sitting on the couch, feeling like his entire future hung in the balance. I don't know what this is between us. It might crash and burn. It might be complicated and messy and harder than what Tyler and I had. Probably will be, Jackson said honestly. I'm difficult. I'm controlling. I work too much. I'm not easy to be with. But when I'm with you, I feel awake, Brooke continued. I feel challenged and seen and alive in a way I haven't felt before. And that's terrifying, but also incredible. Jackson stood, crossing to her slowly. I can't promise easy. I can't promise simple. But I can promise present. I can promise that when I'm with you, nothing else matters. That I'll work every day to be worthy of this choice you're making. Then I choose you, Brooke whispered. I choose the complicated, messy, extraordinary thing. I choose us. Jackson pulled her into his arms, and she fit perfectly, like she had been designed for this exact space. He looked over her head at Tyler, seeing both pain and genuine happiness in his friend's expression. "Thank you, Jackson," said quietly, "for being bigger than this, for loving us both enough to let go." "Just promise me something," Tyler said. "Promise me you'll actually make it work. That you won't let fear or pride or your tendency to overthink everything destroy this. Because if I'm stepping aside, it better be for something real." "I promise," Jackson said, meaning it with everything he had. Moving forward that afternoon, Tyler packed his things. "I'm going to head back to the city. You two should stay. Have the weekend. Figure things out." "You don't have to go," Brooke said, though they all knew he did. "Yeah, I do." Tyler hugged her briefly. "But we're okay." "We're going to be okay." He turned to Jackson, extending his hand. Jackson took it, then pulled Tyler into a proper hug. "I love you, man," Jackson said. "You're still my brother. That doesn't change." "I'll be too," Tyler pulled back. "Just make her happy, and let her make you happy. That's all I want." They watched him drive away, his car disappearing down the coastal road. Then they were alone, standing on the deck of a rented house, facing a future neither had expected. "So," Brooke said finally, "now what?" Jackson took her hand. "Now we figure it out. Together." The beginning, they spent the rest of the weekend learning each other. Long walks on the beach, conversations that lasted hours, kisses that tasted like salt air and possibility. It was not perfect. They had moments of guilt, of questioning whether they had done the right thing. But underneath that was something solid, something real. Sunday evening, as they drove back to San Francisco, Brooke reached across the console to take Jackson's hand. "This is going to be complicated," she said. "People will judge us. They'll say, we handled this wrong, that we should have waited longer." "Probably," Jackson agreed. "Does that change how you feel?" "No," she squeezed his hand. Not even a little." 6 months later, Jackson stood in Brooke's newly designed event space, watching her direct vendors and coordinate details for a tech conference that was nothing like any conference he had ever attended. She had created intimate spaces for connection, interactive installations that encouraged genuine conversation, moments of beauty in an industry that often forgot to value beauty. Tyler was there too, with a new girlfriend who made him laugh in a way Brooke never had. They were all finding their way to a new normal. It was awkward sometimes. There were moments when the history between them made things tense. But they were trying that evening. As guests mingled and connected in the space Brooke had created, Jackson pulled her aside. "This is incredible," he said. "You're incredible. We're incredible," Brooke corrected. "We built this together." Jackson kissed her, not caring who saw, because this was his truth now. This complicated, messy, extraordinary love that had started with jealousy and guilt and grown into something neither of them could have predicted. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." Brooke smiled up at him. "Even though you still work too much and overthink everything. And you're still too optimistic and spontaneous." "Perfect match, then." Jackson laughed, pulling her close. She was right. They were a perfect match. Not because they were easy together, but because they challenged each other. Because they chose each other every day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. That was what Tyler had given them. Not just permission to be together, but the understanding that real love was not about convenience or simplicity. It was about choosing someone completely, flaws and all, and building something extraordinary from that choice. And as Jackson held Brooke in the middle of the event space they had created together, surrounded by people making genuine connections, he understood something profound. Sometimes the right love came at the wrong time, with the wrong person, in the wrong circumstances. And sometimes, if you were brave enough and lucky enough, it still worked out, not despite the complications, but because of them. Because anything worth having was worth fighting for. Worth the guilt and the struggle and the risk of losing everything, Brooke was worth all of it. And as she smiled up at him in the middle of their shared creation, Jackson knew he had finally found what he had been searching for his whole life. Not success or wealth or achievement, but connection. Real, messy, extraordinary connection with a woman who saw him completely and loved him anyway. That was the real story. Not about jealousy or betrayal, but about three people who loved each other enough to be honest, to make hard choices, to risk everything for the possibility of something real. And in the end, that honesty had set them all free.